Good morning everyone and welcome to TCR in Bahrain for the fourth round of the TCR International Series for 2017. Thank you for joining us. Welcome along. We are the opening action here on Grand Prix Day for the Formula One World Championship, and with 5 minutes before the green flag, the safety car heads out around the circuit. Now, we were the opening action yesterday in race 1, and it proved to be a very interesting and exciting race. The trickiness is we once again have no idea of track conditions. Now, it's very, very windy here today, much windier and much cooler than we've seen over the weekend. And that safety car heading around the circuit, I think I saw quite a lot of sand being kicked up by the car as he went into turn 1. This is race 2, so the top 10 from qualifying are reversed, and Ferenc Fizer, the Hungarian, is the man on pole position in his Seat Leon TCR car. He has been on pole position not only in his categories before moving up to the World Championship, but also last year in the World Championship, and he has Dusan Borkovic alongside him, hoping to take the second win for Alfa Romeo after the Giulietta took victory in Georgia. Tassi and Nash on row 2, Jean-Carl Vernet on row 3 with David Kajaya, the only retirement from our first race with a drive shaft problem. And then our winner from yesterday, Roberto Colciago, alongside Hugo Valente and Pierre-Yves Courtals. Matt O'Hommler lines up in 10th position after setting the fastest time in qualifying. But remember, that Opel, the two Opels of DG Sport, have had 15 horsepower taken away from them since then, for balance and performance reasons. Stefano Camini, our champion, I should say, from last year in the Audi RS3, only managing 14th on the grid. Plenty of work for him to do. Now, the car does work in the evening heat, but does not work in the cool, and it is as cool as we've seen it all weekend. Air temperature just 27 degrees, track temperature 38. That's about 10 degrees less than we've seen throughout the rest of the weekend. The wind will be very, very strong. I think it's a headwind down the main straight, so that should help with the slipstream. And I was talking to a few of the drivers about slipstream and how ineffective it was yesterday. As soon as you got into the slipstream behind another car, the under bonnet temperatures went soaring up high and the boost pressure reduced. Therefore, you had less power, and therefore you didn't overtake as well. So the cooler temperatures should help that. There is Dusan Borkovic, the 6'7" Serbian. And plenty of you I know, I've been speaking to Adriana, his wife, plenty of support in Serbia for Dusan, and great to see that he has a clear view ahead of him going into turn 1. Dusan yet to win in the TCR International Series. Obviously with B3 Racing and a Seat last year, the Alfa Romeo for him this year. Attila Tashi, Hungarian protege, just 17 years of age. he moves over from the B3 racing team to a Hungarian-run team, Mira. The team principal, Norbert Mikilich, very happy that they took their opening victory in the 2017, or actually as a team ever, with Roberto Colciago yesterday in the Honda. Plenty of Hungarian happiness on Twitter. I can't tell you what it says. I'm not good enough in Hungarian, but he was very happy. I know that for sure. Obviously Yas as an Italian team who build that car. Gianluca Bruno engineering Colciago, also very, very happy. There's James Nash. Faded a little bit at the end of the race yesterday, got passed by Pepe Ariola, so felt like he'd overdone it on his tyres. But again, these track temperatures, track temperature's now 0. That's a bit worrying. A little blip in the graphics for the moment. Air temperature 28. That's going to help these tyres a lot. And we might see them actually have to work a little bit harder to try and get temperature in the rubber, which is a very hard compound of Michelin tyre, in that first warm-up lap. There is the grid. Jean Calvinet, David Kajaya, as I say, the only retiree in his Alfa Romeo, still joint leads the championship. We have 4 cars within 1 point of each other at the top of the championship. Hugo Valente, then the 2 Opels, and then we've got the Volkswagen Golf of West Coast Racing, and Gianni Morbidelli, and a very poor qualifying from Pepe Ariola, but a great race yesterday from Ariola, from 12th position on the grid all the way up to 6th by the end of the race. Really, really great effort from him. Wind speed 5 meters per second. Headwind down this main straight really affected the single-seater cars that rely more on downforce, but with these cars punching a big hole in the air, it will also mean that slipstream is more effective for them as we head out on our green flag lap. Jean Calvinet, well up there in the championship as well, and is looking forward to having a teammate in Spa for the next round of the championship for Leopard Racing. First 2 rounds just fielding a single car, but both he and Stefano Comini are looking forward to having teammates going into the next round, and we'll have a second Audi RS3 on the grid. There then is the championship. It's Colciago and Venet who have 40 points. Kajaya just 1 point behind with Oriola on 39. But then, as I said, at the end of the first race, plenty of guys further back in the order that are expected to be up further forward. Now, as you can see, as we speculated with the safety car, a huge amount of dust being picked up by all these cars. So actually, the grip is going to be very limited in the early laps because the wind has brought the dust onto the circuit. And with no running before our TCR race, just a couple of cars going around the circuit for, I think it looked like filming purposes, as well as the obligatory safety car laps, there's been no chance to clear the track. So remember, these cars are all front-wheel drive. The rear wheels do nothing except grip when they have grip. So it's very tricky to get grip into the rear tyres. You can see Pierre-Yves Courtal's kind of flicking the back end of the car around to try and get the rears to scrub across the tarmac and therefore generate some kind of tyre temperature. Easy to get tyre temperature in the fronts. They do the driving and do the steering. So you just either spin up the wheels or put it into a bit of an understeer moment. But the rears, much, much harder. And when they're picking up dust, as soon as it gets sticky, all that dust is going to stick to the tyre. This is going to be a very low grip affair. This is going to be very, very interesting. Certainly the early laps especially. Stefano Comini in the back there in the RS3. A longer wheelbase, so a little bit easier to get tyre temperature into those rears than a front-wheel drive that's very short, like the Alfa Romeo. Doesn't that look great? It is a fantastic-looking beast, developed by Audi Sport, customer racing program, alongside the R8 that you see in GT racing. And a real focus from the Volkswagen Group on TCR this year. 90 cars have been sold by Audi Sport for their opening year. This is the first year that we've seen an Audi on the TCR grid, and they've already sold 90 cars. Incredibly impressive. I think most of them are racing in TCR Germany. They've got a huge amount of Audis on the grid there, and we'll have a second car on the grid in Spa. And talking to the team, Audi were desperate not to have a rookie. They wanted a proven race winner in that second car. So we're all very excited to find out who it might be. certainly someone with experience. The team Come To You Racing, rescuing Stefano Comini's 2017 career because he was hoping to be with Leopard Racing, and only a few weeks before the start of the season was told that he would not be needed. So scrambled to try and find a team that would run him. Come To You Racing, known mainly for the Volkswagen Fun Cup, the blue ribbon event of that, the 25 hours at Spa-Francorchamps, Belgian team. And fantastic that they've rescued Stefano and running that Audi RS3, but no testing before the start of the year, so both the team and the driver are really getting used to how the car handles. Ferenc Fizer, the Hungarian, raced in the World Championship last year with Zengo Motorsport, and Zengo here this year as well. Great to have Zoltan in the paddock, and he is hoping to jump inside the Kia for the next race in Spa, but it all depends on whether the Kia is race ready. If Fizer is up in the championship at the end of this race, I don't think they'll risk putting the Kia out without any testing. I think they will stick to this Seat for at least one or two more events and then bring out the Kia when it is fully ready, because Fizer is right at the sharp end of the championship as well and has the opportunity to fight with the best, and an unreliable, untested car would be maybe foolish. Right then, are we ready for the second race of the TCR International Series here from Bahrain? Let's get racing. Dusan Borkovic on the left-hand side, Fizer on the right-hand side. Fizer comes across to try and cover him, but there may be a little bit of an overlap. Dusan on the very, very dust, but he's got the inside line. Tashi has made a great start once again in the Honda, and Borkovic is going to lead here. Tashi's going to try to get around the outside. Wow, good start from Tashi, but loses the rear end, slides through the first part of the corner. They're still side by side, and Borkovic is going to have the inside line for the next corner. He fights back, and it's Borkovic ahead of Tashi, and then Fizer. James Nash stays in fourth position, covers off Roberto Colciago, but look at the dust being kicked up at all of these guys. Easy to lock brakes, easy to slide, and easy to lose grip in these early stages. Now Tashi and Fizer, the two Hungarians side by side. Fizer, I think, has got a better run. He goes around the outside of Tashi and moves up into second position. Valenti trying to find a way past Colciago in the mid-pack. And Fizer now having to defend as James Nash looks to try and get onto the podium. Little bit of contact maybe, and Nash finds a way through. And he's opened the door for Jean-Carl Vernet as well, so Vernet's going to slide up into fourth position. Vernet desperately trying to shut the door, but still Tashi holds on. And that would have resulted last year in contact, but Jean-Carl Vernet, a much wiser fox this year in touring cars, and just gets it done at the next corner instead, dives down the inside and passes Tashi. Great action in the opening laps, and Dusan Borkovic is scampering away off in the distance. His teammate David Kajaya right in the mix of things. I think he's lost a bit of ground in the opening laps as well, and Jean-Carl Vernet finally gets that pass done on Tashi. Tashi offline and wide, and James Nash goes through as well. Now we've got teammates who were having kind of a punching match this morning, Roberto Colciago and Attila Tashi, whilst they were chilling out. There was lots of kind of children's fighting going on. For the moment on track, there's no contact. Tashi just ahead of Roberto Colciago. Fizer defending super hard. James Nash is almost off the circuit. Going to have a lot of dust, but he's going to move into second position, and that's very, very important from Nash, because he saw that Jean-Carl Vernet had made it past Tashi, and again he's put a car between the two of them. These conditions obviously proving very, very difficult. Cooler temperatures in the air and dusty track. Look at it all being kicked up. Borkovic off away in the distance. The gap 2.8 seconds on the first lap. And Nash now defending from Ferenc Fizer, who's tried to go all the way around the outside. Not quite enough room. Nash pushes him off the circuit. Oh, and that's really messed up for Fizer. Should have conceded, should have let that one go and slotted into third position. Instead, he's dropped down to fifth, and maybe it'll be sixth and seventh, because Tashi's on the inside of him, and Colciago will be following him through in the Mira Honda as well, and Fizer's still offline. It's still dirty, he's still losing time. Disastrous couple of corners from the Hungarian. So, battle for second. Nash, Vernet and Hugo Valente. Wow, good start from Hugo from P8 on the grid. No sign of Oriola on this one. He's a bit further back, isn't he? Oriola behind Piove Cortals. Matto Homler at the very back of the field, so Homler's had a horrible first lap from 10th on the grid. And actually he is behind Duncan Indy, who has been the back marker in the Seat that is actually a 2016 spec car. So a little bit of work to do from Duncan. Meanwhile, at the front, Stefano Camini trying to make a way past Ferenc Fitzer. He's got past David Kajaya already. And Fitzer again offline. God, you know, he's just coating his tyres with that dust and dirt offline, and he's not helping himself whatsoever. Camini trying to go around the outside, no way through there. And got the attention of David Kajaya, but Fitzer's racing line is all over the place. The two of them go wide, Camini and Kajaya. Fitzer may well just hold on there. He was completely off the racing line, the ideal line. But mistakes further back has allowed him to have a bit of breathing space. Kajaya now tries to look down the inside of Camini and gets that one done. Still yellow flags in, Giacomo Altoe retires his West Coast Racing Volkswagen Golf. And what a shame. Very likeable Italian. Now, Valente down the inside of Jean-Carl Vernet. And that was easy pickings. Must have taken more momentum off that final corner, and with the slipstream, didn't even have to fight into the braking zone. Valente then ahead of Vernet, the two Frenchmen who were on the podium yesterday, and now scampers off in pursuit of his teammate James Nash. Actually, Valente's having to do a bit of defensive work on Jean-Carl Vernet. I think he's going to be a little bit offline. They're going to go side by side here. These two very fast flowing left and right handers. We saw Vernet doing it yesterday, but this time he backs out of it. Doesn't quite trust to run alongside Hugo Valente as yet. Valente new to this championship this year. And each driver knows each other. They start to establish whether they're trustworthy to run alongside or perhaps not. And Vernet hasn't raced against Valente before. Obviously, Valente we know from various other touring car championships, and many of these drivers will have raced against him, but not Jean-Carl Vernet. Replay of the start. Good start once again from Roberto Colciago. He got boxed in, actually. Dreadful start from Gianni Morbidelli, bogged down at the back of the field, and Altoe managed to pass him. But those Hondas are mighty off the grid. Both Tashi and Colciago having amazing starts. And we went 3 wide into the first corner. Tashi tries to go around the outside. And there wasn't, I don't know if there was contact. That view inconclusive. No, just lost the rear end. Not enough rear tire temperature in the Honda. Had a slide, and that allowed Borkovic to go around the outside. There's an, now here is contact between Tashi and Vernet. Oh, I don't know, look, there's not even a paint scrape on Vernet's front bumper. So that's under investigation, apparently, as is car 54 and 9. And a little bit of rubbings racing going on. Now 54 is Nash and Tashi. And that was a light touch as well, I think, between the two of them. But we are really investigating everything this weekend. Nothing came about it last race. We saw lots of investigations, but no change in the results. And car 10 is under investigation for track limits. So Gianni Morbidelli, you haven't seen what he's been up to. Kajaya in the slipstream of Attila Tashi. Everyone complimenting the Alfa Romeo for its straight line speed, and he's got an overlap. Oh, but Ferenc Fitzer might make this 3 wide, and once again, it's going to be a sandwich for the Alfa Romeo. He has to back out of it, and Stefano Camini's there to try and take advantage. These sweeping left and right handers have seen so much side-by-side action throughout the weekend in TCR, and again, the boys sort themselves out without too much of a problem. Camini now having to defend from Oriola. And that was quick thinking by Camini, because he knew he was slow off the corner, but suddenly saw Oriola coming up at a rate of knots and managed to cover the inside line and to protect that position. But Gianni Morbidelli, therefore, right on the tail of Oriola. Oh, they're all so late. And the concertina effect going into that corner. Here was the move from Kajaya, right down the inside on the dirty stuff. Still manages to get it done, forces Tashi a little bit wide. Little bit of contact, little bit of rubbing on the corner. could weaken the sidewall of both of those tyres. As I say, hard compound tyres, so hopefully we'll not have any problems. So Fitzer in 7th position, Tashi in 8th, Kajaya 9th, Kamini 10th position. There are our point scorers. Oriola outside the points. Fitzer runs a little bit wide. So Fitzer's 6th, sorry. Tashi 7th, Kajaya 8th. They all fan out, trying to find a way to cool down their turbos and their engines. As I said at the start, run right directly behind another car, you start to lose a little bit of engine temperature. Oh, you gain engine temperature and you lose power. Dusan Borkovic is in a class of his own in this second race. Alfa Romeo, the Romeo Ferrari guys, Michele Ceruti, everybody in Italy, just a 15-man team. Done an amazing job to get this Alfa Romeo competitive this year. We saw Kajaya take victory in race 1 in Georgia, and Dusan Borkovic is in a class of his own at the front of the field, 5 seconds ahead of James Nash and Hugo Valente. Interest, though, is in this battle for 6th position. Fitzer still defending. Tashi on the inside line, and Kajaya on the outside line. It puts them all on different racing lines as they come through this section of turns at the start of the lap. And also it coats their tyres in the dust that's lingering offline, and it's therefore causing a little bit of problems once they get to this braking zone. Kajaya has to go defensive. Kamini to the outside, no way round there, but tries a switchback. Better drive off the corner, gets a little bit of an overlap. Now let's see the Audi RS3 power versus the Alfa Romeo. Gotta say, the Alfa does look very strong in a straight line, but Kamini finds a way down the inside under brakes and pushes Kajaya wide. Lots of wheel spin for Kajaya. Look at all the red lines the 11s that he's left. Off the drive of the corner, and Oriola's slid past both of them. But still, Kajaya has to drive down the straight. Can't find a way through, and Kamini's lost the position then to Pepe Oriola, who starts to redesign his rear bumper. Now, here comes Gianni Morbidelli in the mix. Side by side between Morbidelli and Kamini. And the bodywork starts to flail from the RS3 as well. Pierre Courtals at the back there. Got to say that from the domination that we saw in qualifying, the BOP change has definitely affected the performance of the Opel. And they had, as I say, they had 5% of power reduction, which equates to about 15 horsepower. Doesn't sound like a lot, but they did show such a grand showing in qualifying. In Q1, they were a second faster than anybody else, so it was right to do something about it. Balance of performance here to make the racing interesting, and indeed, that's exactly what's happening. Ceruti getting involved with Courtals, Kamini defending over Gianni Morbidelli. We've got 3 of the best drivers in the championship fighting over 10th position and 1 last point. Here is 2nd position. Nash, Valente, John Calvinet and Colciago. Then a gap to Fitzer, Tashi, Kajaya. And then Oriola, Kamini and Morbidelli. Let's have a quick look at what was going on 1 lap ago. You see Kajaya just offline. That allows Kamini to dive down the inside. Runs him out wide, no contact, but then Kamini's also wide. So Pepe Oriola gets the drive off the corner and takes the position from Stefano Kamini, but Kajaya opened up the steering wheel and allowed himself more drive and held on to the position overall. Morbidelli looks to try and find a way past Kamini, but there is no place. Now dives down the inside under brakes, but oh, he's not quite close enough, not quite alongside enough, and there's a little bit of contact between the two of them. Pushes Kamini off onto the dirt, doesn't get the drive, and he loses that position. And that's probably as close to the attracting the attention of the stewards as we could probably get over the weekend. Courtals still defending from Michele Ceruti. And Ceruti yet to find a way past in 13th position at the moment. Let's have a look at this again then. Obviously no way through there, but dives down the inside and Kamini rolls off the brakes. So the contact with Gianni Morbidelli is on the rear quarter of Kamini. And if we were running by Aussie V8's rules, therefore that would be an unfair move in Aussie V8s. We've got to make contact with the front quarter of the car, and therefore that's Rubbings Racing. Lovely super slow-mo, pitching Kamini sideways. We do love contact in touring cars, there's no doubt about it. Oh, now the stewards are investigating Dusan Borkovic for track limits on lap 1 and contact between 10 and 1. So what we just seen. There's a lot of work going up in race control today, as there was yesterday. We never saw any result of it. I'd love to see a replay of the of his track limits on lap 1 from Dusan Borkovic, because it's clear, 5 seconds faster than anyone else, now matching the pace, and we want to see Borkovic on the top step of the podium. Tashi and Kajaya fighting over 7th position. See Tashi starting in 3rd spot, so has gone backwards a little bit, but just he and Ferenc Spitzer just found himself in the midst of things, just on the wrong part of the track, and with the track so dirty, could not find decent grip. Oriola now on the back of Kajaya. They know they can't do anything on the straights, but they can under brakes. And with the cooler track temperatures, these cars shouldn't be suffering quite so much with brake problems. Hugo Valente looking very strong behind James Nash as well. Colciago looking to try and find a way past Jean-Carl Venet. It's been a strong weekend for both of these drivers. Valente, Venet, and I suppose Colciago with the win and a 5th. And all in different marks of car. Honda, Volkswagen and Seat. Fantastic to see. And of course the Seat was born out of a car that was raced in a One Mate series the year before TCR. And so actually that car is 4 years old, the base. Honda was built for the first year, so that's now 3 years old. And the Volkswagen came in last year, so it's in its 2nd year really. Came out actually the middle of the first season, I think we first saw it. So track limits for Borkovic in lap 1. That's what he's being investigated for. Okay, runs off there. Deserve a penalty for that? I'm not quite sure. We'll leave it up to the stewards to decide, but I don't think he managed to really take much of an advantage. He was coating his tyres in dust for starters. Tashi down the inside of Kajaya once again. Kajaya has the inside line for the left-hander here. They're still side by side, and look what Tashi does. Oh, he does exactly the same thing as Borkovic did on lap 1 that we've just seen, and he's going to perhaps take the position. The Alfa Romeo strong on the straights. Yep, and the Alfa Romeo takes the advantage, covers the inside line under brakes. Tashi offline, and he's going to open the door for Oriola. Oriola may slide past both of them here. Going to have a go at going around the outside of Tashi. Inside line for the next one. Oh, but Tashi's going to hold on here. Side by side. Going to have to wait for the braking zone, and all of this is inviting Morbidelli back into the mix. Morbidelli latches onto the back of Oriola. And can he get a way through as well? Oriola pushes Tashi just wide. Kamini tries to get involved. Oh, and still a bit of contact between the two. Kamini holds on onto the inside line, and that will give him the position into the braking zone. Good start from Stefano Kamini. I'm loving this racing this year. Nothing too bad, nothing too aggressive, just really, really good side-by-side racing in TCR. A little bit of smoke coming off David Kajaya. Hopefully that's just bodywork rubbing on tyre again. Managed to hold on ahead of Oriola, so he sits in 8th position still. No, 7th now. Tashi's behind them. And there is the battle for the final podium spot. Valente's faded off the back of James Nash. Now has Jean-Carl Venet in his mirrors and Roberto Colciago. He's got to be really, really careful here. And actually, so is Venet. If Venet doesn't attack, that doesn't work out, Colciago will pounce. 2 minutes left on the clock. I think we're going to get 2 more laps. No, we're going to get 1 more lap out of this. So this will be the last lap for Borkovic as he crosses the line. All of those investigations going on, nothing being decided as yet from the stewards. So, as we see it, we'll have a podium. Nash is under investigation. Borkovic is under investigation. I don't think Valente or Jean-Carl Vernet. No, Vernet is as well. Pretty much half the field is under investigation. But let's focus on what's going on circuit. Cerruti having a great run. Still locked on the back of Pierre-Yves Courtels. Maybe out of the podium. Someone's run wide at turn 1. The yellow flag. But I think it's someone further back down the field. Oh, who's that? Is that an expiring Alpha? It is. It's Kajaya once again. The smoke was more dangerous. Oh, 2 DNFs in Bahrain for the Georgian. The man who led the championship, and I think the engine's gone pop. Looks like there's fluid coming out of the bottom of the engine. We were worried about that smoke. What a disaster for the Georgian. And I think he's cooked it. But we may still see an Alfa Romeo on the top step of the podium. Kajaya is out from 6th position. Oh, it is. It's not water. That is definitely oil. Eek. 20 seconds remaining in the race. Half a lap to go. Kajaya out. Pierre-Yves Courtels is the other man that hasn't made it into the 2nd sector. So a problem for him at turn 1. That was the yellow flag that we saw. Dusan Borkovic, though, 4 seconds ahead. So his gap dropped a little bit to James Nash. But it's been a faultless run for Borkovic. And when was the last time that Dusan Borkovic took a victory? He didn't win all of last season, but he is going to win here. Across the line, Serbian Dusan Borkovic takes victory for the first time in the TCR International Series. James Nash will be on the podium in 2nd position, and Hugo Valente, 2 podiums to get his championship absolutely fired up. Great battle from our championship protagonists from last year. Oriola comes across the line ahead of Tashi and then Stefano Camini. But celebrations in Serbia and celebrations in Italy for the Alfa Romeo, and the Giulietta once again on the top step. 2 weekends out of 2. There'll be a little bit of concern and disappointment about Kajaya's weekend. Drive shaft in race 1, looks like an engine in race 2. But Borkovic has done it, and did it in some style. Just waiting to hear from Neil Hudson, who'll be able to tell me when Borkovic last won. Thank you for Neil at Touring Car Times. Zolder ETCC 2015. God, was it that long ago? Wow. So he never took a victory in the World Championship when he was racing. Obviously, we didn't see him take a victory last year. So close. But so the last race was ETCC 2 years ago at Zolder. And what happens when you put a 6'7" man on the top step of the podium? He looks huge in comparison to the rest of the drivers around him. Oh, wow, it's going to be a happy afternoon then for Adriana and Dusan and the Romeo Ferrari team. Not so much for David Kajaya. Real frustration in the points in both races, and a DNF in both races. And in fact, he parked up beside Giacomo Altoe. Here are the results then. Borkovic finally taking victory by 4.1 seconds ahead of Nash, and Valente makes it 2 Lukoil Craft Bamboos on the podium. Vernet and Colciago. Fitzer from pole down to 6th. Oriola, another great drive from 12th up to 7th. Tashi in 8th. Camini 9th, and Morbidelli the last of the point scorers. Pierre-Yves Courtels actually ended up in 11th position. Cerruti in 12th position, with Homola and Indy, our final finisher, in 14th. Kajaya and Altoe retired. However, I must say a massive thank you to Giacomo's mother for dinner last night. A lovely gesture in the hotel, and we must return that very, very soon. the owner of the Adria circuit in Italy. And the safety car seems to have caught up with Cerruti at the back of the field. Now, she is basically the team owner of the Romeo Ferrari team and is very much linked to the project. So in Georgia, she wasn't racing, so she was able to celebrate and get out the car and be under the podium. But here, she's going to have a little run to do to get out of the car in the support paddock and then round to under the podium to celebrate with Borkovic and see his or her man on the top step of the podium. The two Seats of Nash and Valente already there. And here is Dusan Borkovic. Takes a little bit of time to extract a 6'7" body out of a little Alfa Romeo Giulietta. And I cannot wait to see a massive grin from the Serbian. Great work, absolutely fantastic, and finally he can kick off his championship. I told you he'd be happy. There is Adriana, his wife, ex-professional women's NBA player. Live in Los Angeles. Richard Coleman from Lukoil, Craft Bamboo, will also be happy with the day's work of his drivers after real disappointment in Georgia, not managing to get a very strong performance. But Valente and James Nash have opened their books on course for, what is it, 20 race championship this year? I think Dusan might have found a Serbian flag in the grandstand. There is James Nash. And Mickey Cerruti's managed to get round. That was a good effort. Fantastic stuff. Now we've got to get a photo with Mickey and Dusan. Not so easy to get the two of them in the same photo. Now the decision as to who's going to go up onto the podium to celebrate the victory for the team. So who would have thought it? The Alfa Romeo, a real championship contender this year. Fantastic for me as a massive Alfa fan, and for all of those of you around the world who are part of Alfa Romeo clubs. Great to have Alfa Romeo, which is so synonymous with touring car racing, back at the sharp end. And I am told by Mickey that that car will no longer be fully white when we go to Spa in 3 weeks' time. It is going to have a bit more of a livery.
So your mistake was my mistake is even out yours.
Vinay, Borkovic, Colciago within 2 points of each other at the top of the championship. Hugo and James discussing various mistakes they made.
The last 2 laps. Fighting a lot, huh? Yeah, the first 2 laps. Nice for you. It's nice when you look in the mirror and see a nice big gap when you're leading. Later was slower.
Absolutely, James. Always the best when the car behind you looks very small in the mirrors rather than very large. But he had for most of the race. James was under a lot of pressure from his teammate and from Jean Calvinet in the early stages, who goes away from here as the championship leader. And even if he's not on the podium for the second race, I think we'll see a big smile from the Frenchman going into Spa, which is the team's home race, Leopard's team's home race, with a teammate and as the championship leader. Yep, that's a good weekend's work. And I think he's actually got to scuttle off and do TV now for Canal+.
TCR race this weekend in third place from France, Hugo Valente.
Let's get the drivers onto the podium. A bit more discipline from these drivers today after Colciago scuttled onto the podium on his own accord. Another podium for Hugo after his podium yesterday. James Nash opens his account. Disappointment in the first race of the weekend. Remember, he's vice champion from last year.
And the Alfa Romeo, Dusan Borkovic.
And it is the Serbian Dusan Borkovic on the podium for the first time, on the top step of the podium for the first time since 2015. Let's hear the Serbian national anthem.
The fourth winner in 4 races in TCR. The trophy is
fantastic victory, fantastic to hear that Serbian national anthem.
The chief executive of the Bahrain
4 victors then in 4 races. As we expect from TCR International, it's incredibly close all of the time. And Dusan goes to into the next race, the Spa race, as a place where he took pole position and a very good weekend last year in his Seat.
The trophy is presented by Fayez Ramzi, the circuit operations
Fantastic to have James Nash on the podium once again, and he opens his account for fighting for that championship.
Team, and to the third place driver, Hugo Valente.
And Hugo Valente proving that he is really a man to watch. Only his second weekend in the Seat Leon, his only second weekend with these tyres in this championship, and 2 podiums. In fact, 3 podiums if you count his Georgian race where he eventually got a penalty. Celebrations on podium. Lots of very smiley faces, and why not? It's been a wonderful weekend to be here in Bahrain alongside the Formula One, and in a couple of weeks' time we go off to Spa alongside the WEC Championship. I'll hope you'll join us then. Thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.
representative of the Bahrain International Circuit. Congratulations, and congratulations also to the GE winner in 4 races in TCR. The trophy is presented to him by Sheikh Salman.